Hello, my name is Jordan Sloggett. This is the Growing Guelph podcast, and welcome to the third and final episode in my special series with the Guelph Public Library. Today I'm joined by Meg Forestell-Page, Manager of Public Service, to talk about how the library is expanding access through programming, collections, and partnerships. In this conversation, we dive into Meg's role, the growing importance of digital equity, how libraries can help us navigate an AI-driven and scam-filled world, and the incredible range of resources from digital skills, workshops, to the Library of Things that make the Guelph Public Library a truly innovative and inclusive third space. Thanks again to Meg and to everyone at the library who participated and helped coordinate these conversations. And with that, here's my conversation with Meg. Today on the Growing Guelph podcast, I'm joined by Meg Forestell-Page. Thank you for joining me, Meg.
Thank you for having me.
Meg, what's your title here at the library?
Sure. So I'm the Manager of Public Service at the library.
Very cool. And this is our third of 3 interviews with different members of the library staff that we've recorded here at the library. Today's a cold day outside, which means it's a very warm day in here. I've worn a sweater to the recording, and I'm very warm in this little room. We were kind of talking about some of the joys of having an older building like this, where heat control can be tough to manage. As anyone who's visited any of the, especially the main branch of the library knows, if you come here wearing a winter jacket in the winter and then know that you're going to be carrying that jacket around because it's toasty. So yeah, thanks for joining me to close out this series. I guess my first question is, can you share a little bit about your role at the Guelph Public Library and how your work supports the library's mission to expand access for everyone in the community?
Sure. So in my role, I'm really privileged. I get to oversee 3 different departments. So I oversee the information department, and that's our professional librarians and our library assistants. Our technical services department, so that's a librarian as well as library technicians. And then our programming team, so all of the programmers who you'll see out in the branches singing and dancing and running all those really fun programs. Within my role too, I also oversee external partnerships. So I'm making a lot of community connections with other organizations who align with the library's strategic plan and mission. And then how we're expanding access. Each department is doing really unique things. If you look at our information team, they're one of the first faces you see when you walk into the library, and they're connecting people to information that they need, and accurate information. I always laugh because people say, well, we don't need a library, we have Google. And that's great if you know how to use Google, but so many people come, whether they're looking for a phone number or a connection to a service or, doing research for university, for elementary school, for high school, they're still relying on those information professionals. But even more so, the information team is out in the community. So we get invited to a lot of outreach events, community connectors, and they're out there talking about the services that are offered here at the library and how we can support people. Our technical services team, so they do all the cataloging of everything that comes into the library. So I know we're going to talk about collections a little bit further on, but they're the people who, get those records out into the catalog. So when you're sitting at home with your cup of coffee and searching for a book, it's readily available for you to place a hold on. And then our programming team, I can't speak highly enough about them. They're listening to our community, and they're out there making those programs based on what the community wants. Things that people can afford to do. Not every family can afford to send their child to art class. So come to the library, it's free. You are a newcomer and you're struggling with the English language, well, there's an English conversation circle here. And I could go on and on about all the different ways that these amazing teams are connecting community, but those are just a few to get us started.
Yeah, it's obviously been a major theme in my first 2 conversations so far with the library, and I think it'll be a theme of this one, that the library is so much more than just a room with books in it that you can take out and you can read there. It's like a connector to the community. It's I talked about on a previous episode about some of the interesting things you can rent from the library that aren't just books. I took a carbon dioxide detector home once. It was really neat to learn about air quality. I rented a telescope once from the library. And speaking of like you were just touching on this, some of the interesting programming experiences. I went on a tour that was all around downtown Guelph that was sponsored as part of the library that I believe I attended for free as a library member. That was, I think it was called the Unfortunate Man Tour.
Yeah.
That Jay, who was my, I can't remember if it was the first or second episode of this podcast I had with Jay Wilson, who does a really cool tour talking about one of the last big murder trials in Guelph where the person was publicly executed here in the city. And it was sort of a very tragic tale of a person who killed his family back in the early 1900s, I want to say. What was it, the Williams? Harvey. His last name
we
was
could ask a
Harvey, the Harvey
librarian
murder.
and
Yes.
they would know. Yeah.
But that was a side tangent that I got on, just to say that there's so many cool experiences you can have by connecting with the library and being a library member. And something that came up in the second episode that, as of the date of this recording, isn't released yet, but I was sort of theorizing, and we were talking a lot about in that second episode about the role that librarians will have in helping people kind of be like the guardians of finding what's true and what's useful. Because as we're quickly seeing with like AI tools and stuff like that, there's a lot of information out there, whether that information is good quality, whether it has corporate interest tied to it. Even Google now, like Google, when you ask something, it gives you an AI summary. You know, Alphabet, the company that runs Google, is not without its biases and reasons why it would hold information back for you. So to your point, why do libraries need to exist in a world with Google? We might be entering out of a kind of golden age where information is easily accessible online, and entering into an area where you'll like kind of like a murky swamp area where there's a lot of stuff out there, and whether it's useful, whether it's good, whether it's reputable, will be very challenging. And I honestly see like librarians and members of what was the name of that team? The information department. Yeah, the information department. I think that they'll just have a real critical role to play of helping so many people, like not just like the elderly members of our community, but like young people my age, who just like navigating this new world that we're entering in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I look at my own children who are between the ages of 6 and 10, and I mean, the way they are able to navigate the online world astounds me but you know, they come to me and they say, well, I found this. And I said, well, where did you find it? And, you know, asking those questions, well, do you think that's true just because it's on there? And I worry that children especially are just bombarded with information, but they haven't learned the skills on how to navigate true information. And also finding different viewpoints. Something might be true, but there might be something, you know, to argue that point. And I think that's where librarians, you know, help all ages. They're really, really helping to navigate that digital landscape when information is just coming at you nonstop, and it's overwhelming, and that's their role, I think. So
yeah, it's overwhelming now, and it's only going to get more intense, I think, as we build more and more data centers that are just going to be able to output reputable looking things. And some of those things are going to be reputable. Like, you know, not all things created by AI tools and that are going to be bad. Like, there's going to be so much good out there too, and it's going to be such an amazing accelerator of like education. And I see all of that good, but I also see like an incredible opportunity for misinformation and just if there's a viewpoint that someone wants to sell you on, they're going to be able to generate like an infinite amount of extremely reputable looking content, of like video essay type things to things that look like newscasters talking about it. And I mean, I dare you to find a librarian or a library assistant or library technician who will only give you one side of an argument. I mean, they're critical thinkers, and that's really, they want you to be a critical thinker too. So they're not easily offended. You can ask them anything, and they're going to lay out all the information that's
that's accurate, whether it's the side that they fall on or not. They're impartial. And so I think it's far and few between the places you can go to find both sides of a story so unbiased as the library.
So I understand that you've been involved with the library's Equity Coalition. For listeners who might not be familiar, what is that coalition and what kind of work does it focus on, both within the library and within the wider Guelph community?
Sure. So it's actually the Guelph Wellington Digital Equity Coalition. And actually, I really have to give kudos to our digital services librarian. She really helped to spearhead this coalition in the community. She saw such a need for digital skill building and, the digital divide growing larger and larger. And so, she asked me if she could really look into this and figure out. And she was able to help form with, multiple other really passionate people, this Guelph Wellington Digital Equity Coalition. And it's a group of non-for-profit organizations that work together to promote digital equity in Guelph Wellington. And they look at three main areas. They look at advocacy, access to technology, and access to digital skill building opportunities. And that looks a little bit different for every organization. And, we've really learned that you can't do it all. The library can't do it all. We can't be the expert on everything. We can find information. And what this has really done has given all of these organizations the ability to understand where everybody's strengths are and to ensure that if somebody comes to us and it's not our strength, we have the information from this other organization to give to them. And the library, our main point in this is, of course, advocating for information and not misinformation and helping people navigate the web and making sure that people have the tools that they need to navigate. It's, we don't often think about it, but the majority of things are online now. So you need to fill out a government form, an application. You're looking for somewhere to live. It's online. Yeah. And if you don't have those skills, you're at such a disadvantage. So, from the library's perspective as part of the coalition, as information keepers, we really promote assisting people in navigating the web, but also ensuring that if you don't have the tools to do so, we'll help equip you with the tools. So we have devices that you can loan here. We have free internet, free Wi-Fi. And, once you get those devices, we're going to help you use them properly. Another big thing that we do here at the library is run tech help sessions. So these are everything at the library is free, but these are one-on-one sessions that can be booked where if you're struggling, your grandson just gave you a new iPad and you have no idea how to use it, but that's how he wants to communicate with you. We're going to help you with that. You have to fill out an application and you don't even know how to get online to do this, nor do you have an email address to do this. We'll spend time with you one-on-one and get you set up to do that. And it's just, you just really don't think about it if you're fortunate enough to already have those skills and to have, internet and devices at your avail to do all these things. But there's such a need in Guelph. And it's been great too that nobody's getting lost with the coalition, and more people being in the know about what organizations offer. We're making sure that nobody is left behind if they want to be a part of the digital landscape. So yeah, that's a little bit about the coalition.
That's cool. Well, I wrote their name down because I'm definitely going to add them to my ongoing and growing list of potential groups and organizations I should speak to on this podcast, because it sounds like there's a lot of really cool work that's being done there. I mean, trying to connect people and build those skills, it's interesting too that we've moved from there's so much that's kind of difficult to navigate, and there's all these new skills that can seem second nature to some people who've grown up in it, but that they really do require learning and understanding, and it can be unintuitive. And now there's different apps to work your way around, and they're always changing, and your device that you bought 5 years ago that still perfectly works might not actually work as it should.
Yeah.
But now also we're in a world where there's just so much malicious scams, things that I was talking about this in the last episode though, but like I feel like I used to be such a big proponent of Google and all their services and all the good that they do, and I still largely am. I mean, I'm looking at a Google Docs right now. I use Gmail for a lot of things, but as someone who's a big fan of YouTube, the fact that like malicious actors are paying to put scam advertisements on YouTube, and YouTube has apparently no ability or desire to stop them. Like I get what looks to be Prime Minister Mark Carney speaking and trying to sell people on some like digital cryptocurrency investment scheme. It's obviously not Mark Carney, it's AI created.
Yes.
Like these things just go out there, and like they're always used, like scams have always existed. There's always been things like that, but like when you used to, for example, if the only way you could run your scam was running a ad in the newspaper, well, then the Guelph Mercury could kind of do some legwork to like ensure that they weren't letting malicious actors advertise in their newspaper.
Right.
Google seems to be like, hey, if you want to pay them money, sell whatever you want to whoever. And I mean, we've seen that with social media, like people's access to reliable news information. If you rely on social media in Canada is in like a real, like we're kind of in a nebulous dark pit right now because there are no news. A lot of the social media companies have just taken themselves off of social media. So it does, I mean, I've thought about this too, where like, how news-like do I have to get with my podcast before I reach that critical level of being news? Like, obviously I'm not at the moment, but it does mean that for people who don't go out of their way to, you know, get traditional news sources,
Yeah.
they can remain uninformed, and if you're uninformed, then you're sort of ripe for malicious actors out there to take advantage of.
Yeah.
So
You're right. There's just so much to learn, and it, you know, it's very hard to somebody who's not looking at traditional news sources to explain to them what these malicious information sources are. And you know, we're really looking in the new year at security and safely navigating the internet. You know, I think we've all, at one point, even the most savvy amongst us, has been like, oh, I almost clicked on that, or I almost believe that. So
yeah, you get the email from your boss that's like, hey, I urgent email, and then you start reading it, and it's like, wait a second, this isn't actually from my boss, and they don't want me to go buy gift cards. But trying to sit down and talk to like a parent or a grandparent or an elderly relative and tell them like, hey, you could get a phone call that could sound legitimate, and it could be telling you that it's the police and that so and so is in jail, and you need to bring money, and like. These scams know how to prey on people's emotions and stuff that they're embarrassed to ask about or to talk about. And like, I think, everyone's now living in a world where you have to have these sort of conversations. And I've heard, you know, families will come up with safe words and things like that, like, hey, just because it sounds like me on the phone, just because like, and they can spoof numbers. So just because your phone tells you that this number is like, and it's too bad that we have to live in this world of kind of constantly being like suspicious. Like, all of us have to turn up our suspicious, like, and I think that only increases the level of like coldness that you need to have, and the sort of, you know, if everything online is like, well, this could be a scam, this could be that, then like, it's tricky.
It is. And I mean, that's another great thing with the coalition. I mean, our librarians are scrambling. AI happens so quickly, and so they're behind the scenes trying to get ahead of it and understand it and learn it to teach the community. And much like, you know, cybersecurity issues and trying to get ahead of that. But with the coalition, thankfully, you don't have to know it all within this coalition. There are experts in, you know, in this situation and experts in this situation. And so calling them in and running joint programs and services has been immensely helpful. And we hope to really build upon that in 2026. So.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the benefits of being in the sort of nonprofit space. I remember kind of having that realization years ago when I jumped from a corporate job to working in a nonprofit, where it was like, oh, we're kind of everyone's friends. Like, everyone can be friendly with each other in the like, there's not this corporate interest that is like keeping everyone separate and like not working together. And the sort of the benefits that you can get when everyone is just trying to, like, the outcome is the value added and not just like dollars
Yes.
gained.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
So in this series of conversations, I've had a lot of chats about how library is such an essential third space and a public good. How do collections and programming bring that idea to life? And do you have any examples of how you've designed or adapted programs to meet the needs of different people in Guelph?
Sure. So, I mean, I think the library is so uniquely placed as third place because everyone is welcome here. This isn't, unlike, a rec center where if you might not be playing hockey or swimming lessons or doing that. It's kind of funny just to sit in a rec center. And here, the joy of the collections being out and open to the public is you can come and you can grab a book, you can sit at a computer, and you can just be. You don't even have to grab a book. That's what our chairs are for. Just come and sit and be. And I think, that's really where we shine, is that there is something for everyone, whether you're here for a purpose to attend a program, or you're checking out a book, or you just need a place to be. But in regard to our programs, I mean, we're community led, all of our programs. It's as much as our programmers are an amazing group of people. The brilliant ideas for the programs don't all come from within that small team. We look to our community and we listen to their feedback and what they're looking for. And that's shifted over the years. We had a time where the entire focus of our programming, this was many, many, many years ago, but was only on young children and families. And so, we ran the story times and that was such a need at the time in the community, and it continues to be a need. So we still run that. But, we heard as children were growing up and these families were evolving, where were the adult programs? Where were the teen programs? Guelph is hugely connected to our local history. And so a spike in wanting local history presentations like the jaywalking presentation you mentioned before.
There was one, sorry to interrupt you, but there was I think it was this past May, you had a historian who was talking about the results of some of the archaeological dig information that had happened as part of where the new library is being built. And that whole, if anyone doesn't know, that whole area used to kind of be the back lots of several churches. So there were quite a few old burial grounds there that they were very careful before starting the new library to kind of carefully go through and make sure that there weren't any remaining burial sites there. Basically, before the Woodlawn Cemetery opened up, that's where everyone in Guelph was buried. But I believe you had a public speaker on who was talking about that. I wasn't able to go, but just seeing that was something that was offered at the library was really cool. And
yeah. And I mean, just sort of hitting the needs of the community where we're at in this space. So, I mean, during COVID, when the world shut down, the library pivoted very quickly to virtual programming. So, we had our programmers in their homes running programs online to keep children entertained while parents were trying to work at home. And, they really do just adapt to the needs of where our community is at. This morning, we had 10C as one of our partners, and they were in here running a financial literacy program, which was hugely well attended. We've had community living come in, and they have coffee time chats where people of all abilities can just sit down and connect with each other and learn from each other's experiences. Ontario Works and Service Canada had reached out to us, and they said, we know that there is a need in our community and that people need our services, but they're not coming to us, and they're coming to you. And so we opened our doors, and they have their mobile clinics here at the library. And so I think the real gem of the library is that nobody that works here is in it for our needs or what we're looking for. We are led by the community and what they're telling us they need and where they're at right now. And I think that's what makes us the unique third space within Guelph.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. It's come up on so many episodes of this podcast about just the lack of community in our culture and our society right now. And, I'm someone who, I went to Catholic school and kind of grew up a little bit in the church and that, but I've moved away from the church, but I can't help but, especially as I kind of get a little bit older and I'm in my 30s now, and I sort of realize Oh, there was a lot of community that the church used to provide as a real foundation for families and for people's lives, and there's, I feel like we threw out the bad parts of maybe like the judgmental, the negative elements that could happen with that, but we haven't fully replaced all the good and all the really necessary elements that having an institution like that in everyone's lives as a connector point for everyone and the good that it brings. And yeah, I truly do see the library as like potentially the positive replacement of that, and not replacement,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean, like a pillar of the community where everyone in the community is welcome to it, and it provides. When I say spiritual, I just mean like the sort of enrichment of our lives that are necessary, and addressing the issues in our lives that are like really critical. And like you were talking about the different services and like how much you listen to the community, and like, you know, we all pay for the library, so it truly is like a public good and a public space that like it's an institution that I think we can all agree, if it didn't exist, it would be very, very challenging politically to like bring it into existence now. There'd be
Yes.
a lot of people very upset about the concept of the library if you tried to introduce it now. But it does exist. So while it exists, like, let's all make use of it. Let's try to stay informed, try to remember that the library isn't just a place for books, that it's a place for community.
Exactly. And the library is ever adapting and evolving, again, based on the community. So the library that you would walk into 50 years past is very different than the current library of today. And that's not unique to Guelph. That's library systems, you know, across the country. But I think other church, for instance, it has a mandate. It's a spiritual place to go and grow community within that. I mean, here, everybody from every walk of life comes through the doors. And so I always invite people, if they question the need of a library in a community, just to come into the main library in particular and sit, you know, for an hour and just watch who walks through the doors. And no two people are the same, and yet they're coming to this place for different needs and different wants, but they're all welcome, and that's such a rarity. And yeah, I think we really have, you know, as more and more things go online, people are missing that connection, and that, you know, again, it doesn't necessarily mean sitting down and talking with somebody or engaging with somebody, but being close to other people, and that, you know, where else can you go and just sit and not look a little weird?
Yeah, that's what you kind of said it before, like a place to just be. And there's so many, when you think of so many other parts of the world where that becomes a crime that we call loitering.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Yeah, like thankfully we still have the library as a place where anyone can just be without any expectation of spending money.
Yep.
Because we've all spent a little bit of our money to make it a
Sure.
place that, and you know, I'm happy to pay taxes if some small portion of that gets to go here. What are some surprising or maybe less known ways that the library's collection helps support equity or access? Are there tools, titles, or resources that people might not expect to find here?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, we've all heard the library is not just books, and it's so true. I mean, you know, of course we have, I would argue, one of the best collections in Ontario libraries, and our interlibrary loan stats. So that's a borrowing system where libraries across the country can borrow books from other libraries if their library doesn't hold it. And our stats for that are so large because we have such a great collection of traditional books. And, you know, quite honestly, with all the new things coming out, they're great, and I'm going to talk about them, but Guelph is a community of avid readers. Our circulation year to year continues to grow, and so we're proud of that. We're proud of our traditional collection. But on top of that, I mean, we have a newly developed, we call it the Library of Things.
Yes, I touched a little bit on this earlier, where you
Yeah.
can get telescopes, but it's more than just that. Like you can get public like park passes
Yeah,
to
GRCA
camping.
and provincial park passes. You can get radon detectors, carbon monoxide, toys. We have educational toys now included in that collection. Knitting needles, crochet hooks, really, puzzles, you name it. They have
There's
it in
an
that
entire,
collection.
we're kind of up on the second floor of the library here where the kids area is. And I know there's a quite substantial collection of like board games and like if you're going camping, not only should you come to the library to get a couple books to bring camping, but like you can get activity things, you can get like so many interesting things.
Yeah. And that collection continues to grow. And again, we're always looking for feedback if there's something you need. Going back to that digital divide, we have technology that's available through Loan. And thankfully, through the coalition, we have community connection kits. So if you have a class that you want to teach computer skills to, well, we have a case of Chromebooks available to be loaned out. But we have cognitive care kits. So people who are struggling with memory loss and dementia and Alzheimer's, these kits are hugely useful and not readily available anywhere else. Book club kits, obviously we run book clubs here at the library, but anyone that wants to start their own book club, we have hundreds of kits available to be checked out.
So you can get like 20, 30 copies of the same book.
Usually they come in sets of 10.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Getting 30 people together for a book club, start with 10.
A big book club. And then we also have our whole digital platform. So, and it's open 24/7. I think that's a really cool thing too, in that the library, we close at 9:00, but that digital presence is open all the time. So ebooks, audiobooks, music, newspapers. You're interested in what was in the Guelph Mercury 30 years ago? It's online and available. We have a resource called Transparent Languages, where if you're bored one night and you want to learn a new language, it's readily available. I could go on and on, DVDs and, so many things that are available. Old technology, new technology, microfilm, local archives, We have great partnerships to the Ontario Genealogical Society has donated so many records, cemetery records. Their entire collection is housed here at the library.
Cool.
A new recent partnership we've entered into is with the Nightingale Centre for Grieving and Bereaved Children and Families. And we're excited in the coming months to be launching grief kits through them. So if, a child or younger person in your family has experienced a loss, we have these kits now available to them that support them through this. It has information, books they can relate to, coping mechanisms. So it's growing every day. I think that's the really cool thing, is that the collection is ever evolving. So
yeah, there must be a lot of dedicated people who are spending so much of their time researching and bringing those really interesting things. Something that if people like reading, but they haven't really fully explored graphic novels, and if you still think of graphic novels as just comic books, like the art form has really come a long way, I'd say, in the last 20, 30 years. And the library has such a cool collection of graphic novels to look through. I find those particularly interesting to rent because graphic novels can be expensive for the amount of entertainment you get out of them. They can be like $30, $40 and you can read it in an hour. But if you're renting them from the library, you can take home a whole armful of them for free and just experience stories in kind of a unique way that way.
Our librarian who oversees that collection is going to be so thrilled. She takes it very seriously, and she's, I think that's the other really neat thing, is that our collection is community driven. We take suggestions, we listen to feedback, but you have a whole team of supervisors and librarians who are collecting all the suggestions, who are looking through, resources to find out what's going to be the next big thing. And they're curating such an excellent collection. I mean, I think they should be immensely proud of the work they do, because it shows in the circulation stats how much goes out. So
yeah, and it's so important too, just that, where else can you go where the collection is truly curated by interest and what a community really needs, and not just what a corporation is trying to sell you, right? You can go to Indigo's website and they have all kinds of cool books that have come out, but it's through that corporate lens of what Indigo is going to sell and what they think you'll buy.
Yeah.
And the library is kind of free of some of those biases of like the only interest is like what will be good for the community and what will the community like.
Yeah. And they're also, I mean, I'll tell you a little secret in Guelph. We're a little bit retro in that most libraries, you know, have standing orders and they have one person who kind of goes through and says, nah, we don't need that, or yes, we need this. The Guelph Library has maintained its same processes since I started, which was almost 20 years ago, where every month this group of librarians and supervisors get together and go through every single item that was either suggested to us or a librarian or supervisor thought would be beneficial to the collection. And they sit there and they go through them and they talk about it and debate it. And I think that's just such a special thing because we have so many avid readers and library users in Guelph, and it's such a rarity. My husband works at a different library, and he's shocked that this still occurs. But it's, I mean, I think that is library work. I think that's the work of librarians to curate these collections. It's a part. They have very big jobs, but this is a part of their role, and I'm so pleased that Guelph hasn't let go of that.
And it's good incentive to get involved with the library because it sounds like, if you put in a request or a suggestion, it's actually going to be considered. It's not just going to go into an inbox where someone says like, okay, great, no, or whatever, right?
No, they are all, each one is printed off or sent to the team and debated and, you know, spoken about. And if we, you know, ever don't get something in our collection because it doesn't, we do have a collection development policy, and if it doesn't fit within the realms of that, those are hard choices. And we as librarians feel awful if we can't get every book that is suggested to us, but there's also a finite budget to be spent. And
It's also a finite physical amount of space, even though that's going to be growing with the new library. There's only so many books you can fit in a building.
It's true.
So since you're so closely involved with the library's public-facing work, what kind of shifts have you noticed in how the community engages with the library? We kind of talked about this a little bit about the different needs and how it kind of used to be very family and children focused. But what are some other ways that you're sort of seeing the needs or the expectations changing, and how have you and the team responded to those changes?
Sure. I mean, there's a few ways. Again, you know, we still see the families and the children and, you know, provide traditional reference service. But we're certainly, I mean, we're seeing a change in the types of people who utilize the library. I mean, there are people who come in to get warm. There are people who come in to cool down in the summer. There are people who desperately need our water fountain. And all of those things are now a part of the job, you know, and there's some hard days at the library, you know, and difficult interactions. And, you know, again, I can't applaud our staff enough on the way that they have been able to pivot and adapt. You know, I watched the other day one of our librarians, in 1 minute, she was helping somebody research for their project on a religion and getting that. And then she sat down and was helping somebody else find a DVD in the series that they were reading. And then the next minute, our alerts are going off in the bathroom, and she's running to the bathroom and administering naloxone to somebody who is in desperate need for it. You know, and then 2 minutes later, she's on the phone and giving somebody directions to another organization. And it is like, it's just shocking how flexible you have to be to work in libraries right now. And they don't get rattled. I mean, not on the outside. I'm sure on the inside, it's, you know, the days can be long and difficult. But the people that you see working in libraries love it. So they just love people and they love serving the community. And so that shift from traditional library service to sometimes more of a social work aspect has just sort of, you know, they just do so well. I'm just so privileged to work with these teams. You know, we've done training to best prepare them. We've set up partnerships to help alleviate some of the more difficult days, but they just go with it and they just go with the flow. And, I no longer sit on the reference desk. I think my last time on the reference desk was probably in 2017. And even then, things have changed so much. But it used to be, I remember we used to have one individual who would come in and he just loved music CDs. And so I would spend a half hour looking up artists for him and trying to find these CDs. And then I might have one challenging interaction where somebody was disruptive or, not following the code of conduct. But now it's almost like whiplash between traditional and social work. And that's what the library is, though. Going back to that third space, we're really something for everybody, and we're filling in all those sort of gaps in the community.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that element of the library too much in this conversation, but it's certainly come up in the other conversations. And I think it's such a I guess it's huge kudos to the whole library staff for stepping up into that role of providing that kind of social work. And it's reflective of how the needs at the library really mirror or are, like, in some ways, like a microcosm of the needs of the wider Guelph community. And the library can't just turn away from some people's needs because they're uncomfortable to deal with.
Yeah.
Versus we're talking about what separates the library from walking into like Indigo at Stone Road Mall.
Yeah.
Indigo at Stone Road Mall, very nice place. Lots of cool books there, lots of like houseware things you can shop. But they're providing very different, like one of those, Indigo, is a business and they're not helping people in those unique ways that the library can really help, that the library is here to help. And, we've all probably seen like sort of comments online and people and stuff, things like that, where people have this idea of like, oh, I don't want to go to the library because it's just full of a certain sort of person that they don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
But that is just such a I think that if you're saying that, you're basically saying like, there's elements of our society that I don't want to acknowledge that they exist and I don't want to see them. And I think it's similar attitudes that people talk about, like when, they talk about downtown or they talk about encampments and stuff like that, where like these people exist, they have needs, they are part of our community, and they don't stop existing just because you kick them out of the business, just because you call the police on them and like get their encampments removed. Like they still exist, and the library doesn't shy away from that. And the library is here for all of us.
Yeah, and equally here for all of us.
Yeah.
So, I mean, whether, you have a steady job and you have a steady income and you want to use the library, or you've fallen on difficult times and you're struggling, it's the equal service for everybody. Somebody doesn't get more service from an information specialist than the next person. And I would say to those people who are worried about coming into the downtown library particularly, that, there is a code of conduct here, and staff are very diligent about, if that code of conduct isn't being followed and if people aren't safe, people are asked to leave for the day to take a break.
Yeah, it's by no means like a free-for-all here.
No, but, we've had people who are living very good lives that I know of who have had bad days who have been asked to leave as well.
Yeah.
It's equally across, and you just never know what somebody's going through in any given day. And that's just sort of how the library approaches it, is that you're all welcome. Here are the rules. If you're not following them, you're asked to leave for the day. And, if somebody does come in and staff happen to miss something that's happening, don't be afraid to go and speak to staff. That's what we're here for. We want to make sure that everybody feels like this is a good place to be and that you're safe. And I think you're absolutely right to shy away from people in our community who might not be, somebody you'd interact with every day isn't the right approach. I mean, they are our community. Everybody is. So yeah, it's interesting, and it's a balance between traditional and social, and then also, with this whole digital divide and staying ahead of like AI and security and things like that. But it keeps it exciting.
Yeah, I bet. And like, I guess that's just like a good reminder for people that if there's something in the public space in the library that like reckoning with it makes you feel uncomfortable, then maybe that's a sign that maybe it's a sign that you're seeing a symptom of something that you should try to address, and try to address not by getting rid of it, but maybe there are maybe like take a good long think about like how you vote and how you spend your time and how you like put your money and time towards causes out there in the world, because there's a lot of people out there putting good effort towards these things, and none of it's going to be solved by just focusing on the discomfort of it. Very few things in life are,
Yes.
actually. So,
Yeah.
and not everything is a problem to be solved. Some things are just the way of the world. And if you want a super comfy, nothing but joy sort of experience, like I'm sure there are several country clubs in the city that will happily, provide that kind of sanitized experience for you. But even then, like you said, there are lots of people in the world who, in our city, who are probably very gainfully employed, live in a comfortable home, and still abuse substances, maybe substances that they have prescriptions for, and have their share of like mental health experiences out in public.
Sure.
Yeah, it's interesting how sort of the same behavior can be seen in very different lights. Like,
Yeah.
from even though it's at the end of the day like very similar human experiences of just like sometimes people have bad experiences out in public, but if you're privileged enough, those experiences might just be more or less, you could sum it up as like a Karen having a moment at
Yeah.
yelling at like a public service worker versus
Yeah.
like the alternatives or other ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. I never want it to, you know, to cause people not to want to come to the library, because yes, you may see an unpleasant interaction. There might be something, but I bet you're also going to hear children singing in our music classes upstairs.
Oh, for sure.
And
When we first started, I have no idea if any of it's made in the microphone, but when we first started talking, there was like the joyous sounds of kids playing up here, and
Yeah.
like I kind of hope it added it, like made it into the microphone, because it's just
Yeah.
a good reminder that like this is a public space where there's like families and kids and truly reflective of all of society, including people trying to improve themselves. And like I always see kids studying down, like especially
Yep.
in the lower levels. There's people studying down there, like all walks of life. People are here living life together and making use of all the great services that are here.
Yeah, yeah, and there's so much. They're really, I'm trying to think even today at the main library, like we started the morning off with the bouncing babies upstairs, and we had our hybrid knitting program, so people here and people all over sort of joining in to learn how to knit. We had 10C here today with financial literacy. Like
Yeah.
there are just so many great things happening that I would hate for the few negatives to outshine
Yeah.
the real joys that can be found in the library. So
And like so many things online, those few negative comments, they take up a lot more space than, like they kind of make a thing seem bigger than it is. And I know I'm guilty of this, of sort of thinking that like they represent the people who have a bone to pick with like the city spending any amount of money on anything, you'll find them in the comments of like anything, but the hundreds to thousands of people entering the public spaces making use of things, like they're just going about their day and they're not focused on that negativity. So sometimes like the existence of that negativity isn't indicative of it actually representing a huge segment of people.
sure.
So, Meg, as we wrap up this series, are there any messages that we haven't spoken to, that you haven't spoken to yet, that you want to leave listeners with about the role of libraries today, especially in terms of how like programming, collections, and services can help build
Sure,
more
sure.
connected and equitable Guelph?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing I'd like to leave people with is first of all, if there's something missing at the library that you want to see, don't hesitate to reach out. There's forums on our website for programs if you want to suggest a program. You can email. I mean, my email is right there on the website. We want to hear from you. Let us know. Don't shy away from that. I think also, I'd invite anyone, if you haven't been to the main library recently, sign up for a program. Come on in and look at our collections and just come into our space, and lastly, I know I keep raving about our staff, but this is a special place and there are special people that work here. And I think you would be hard pressed to walk into any other organization and find a team that's just so committed to community. They just want to help. They're the most helpful bunch.
Yeah, that's the biggest vibe I've gotten from the staff here is that, people are not here at the library because they wanted a career where they, were money focused.
Yeah.
The service forwardness of everyone here and like just the eagerness at which they'll try to solve your problems, whether it's like finding a book or literally anything else that you could think of.
Just want to have a chat.
Yeah.
Come in. And you can connect with us in person, via email. We have an online chat. You can call us. And I think, this goes back a couple CEOs ago, but you can always connect to a person. If you call us, press anything and you'll get a person. And there's a person on the other end of the line who genuinely wants to help. We have some very wonderful customers who come in daily just for a quick chat. They want a 5-minute chat, and we love that. If that's what we are for you, we're happy to be that. And sometimes I talk to my friends who have moved from Guelph, and when they come back, they're like, oh, I should go see, like, what's the library look like? I'm like, it looks exactly the same, but we're doing really cool stuff, and come before we move to that new central library. And I'm just so excited for the opportunities that will allow us. I mean, our programs will continue to grow in an accessible building where everybody can reach us. Our collections can grow, our staffing can grow. I'm excited for the possibilities within that building, and it's just the next chapter of growing and being a community connector.
Yeah, well, I think it's a great place to end things. Thanks so much, Meg, for this conversation, and thanks so much to you and everyone at the library who've dedicated your time dedicated your careers to this, and also dedicated some of your time to having these conversations. It's been great on behalf, as someone who uses the library quite a bit. It's been a great reminder of just all the stuff that's done here. So thanks so much.
Thank you. This is great.
Thanks for listening to Growing Guelph. I've been your host, Jordan Sloggett. Be sure to subscribe to us on social media, on your favorite podcast app, and if you have a recommendation for a future guest you'd like me to speak to, you can reach out to me at growingguelph@gmail.com.